Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Rakshama. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshama. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahimam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahimam. Imagine. Hey Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Hare. Krishna, 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 Rakshama. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Krishna, 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 Rakshama. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahimam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Radhe Shyam, Jaya Radhe Shyam, Radhe Shyam, Jaya Radhe Shyam. Nitya Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura, Hari Bol. Jai Nitya Gaura Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol. Jai Om Vishnupat Paramahamsa Parabhikachaya Astotar Satsi Simad Navecharana Arvind Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Vishnupat Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namachar Shri Das Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Praims go Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar Ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Mindi Chur Shega Bhaktak Mindi Chur Shega Bhaktak Mindi Chur Shega Bhaktak Mindi Chur Shek Shri Guru Shri Gurangana. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Okay, dear devotees, here we are in New Vṛndāvana still.
Kedves bakták, itt vagyunk még mindig új Vṛndāvánban.
Next week we will be in Budapest.
Következő héten pedig Budapesten leszünk.
And getting ready for our Rath Yatra.
Készülni fogunk a Ratha Játrára.
Which will be on the Saturday of the 9th.
Ami a 9-i szombaton lesz.
And then on that Sunday, I guess we can continue with our program.
És azon a vasárnapon majd folytathatjuk a
But I'll
programot.
let you know next Sunday.
De majd ezt a következő vasárnap mondom.
We are on verse 91,
91. versnél vagyunk,
chapter 18,
a 18. fejezetben.
and I'm planning to finish Vṛndāvana travels. I thought we were a little ahead than where we are.
És az a tervem, hogy befejezzük ezt a Vṛndāvani részt.
Page
Azt úgy emlékeztem, hogy egy kicsit előbbre vagyunk.
276, that's 60 pages.
Ez 60 oldal.
Well, if I don't say anything and we just read, then that'll take up our time.
Ha nem mondok semmit, csak olvasunk, akkor az is kitölti az
But
időt.
there are some comments to make along the way.
De azért van néhány megjegyzés, amit jó hozzátenni.
Hungarians, English devotees, Turks, others who want to follow us, then we have a Caitanya Charitamrita.
Magyar bakták, angol bakták, törökök, mások, tudtok követni bennünket, hogyha van nálatok Caitanya Charitamrita.
I have my original Caitanya Charitamrita,
Nekem itt van az eredeti Caitanya Charitamrita.
first edition.
Első kiadás.
This was books that we received in 1976.
Ezeket a könyveket 1976-ban kaptuk.
First printing 1975,
Első nyomtatás 1975-ben volt.
20,000 copies.
20 000 példány.
We were distributing these also on the streets, airports, and so on.
Ezeket a könyveket osztottuk az utcákon is.
Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we concluded our last week by this Krishnadas, Rajput Krishnadas, who came and became Lord Chaitanya's servant.
Ott fejeztük be a múlt héten, hogy ez a Rajput Krishnadas az Úr Chaitanya szolgája lett.
So we have 4 devotees with Lord Chaitanya.
Tehát most már 4 bakta van az Úr Chaitanyával.
Balabhadra Bhattacharya, his servant, then the Shranodiya Brahmin, whose name we don't know, and now this Krishnadas.
Balabhatta Bhattacharya és a szolgája, ez a Svanadiya Brahmana, akinek nem tudjuk a nevét, és ez a Krishnadas.
Oh yes, just a couple of quick announcements.
Néhány gyors, rövid bejelentés.
We are reaching our sort of sales saturation point for Navavraja Mahima.
A Navavraja Mahima eladásában elértük azt a határt, amit akartunk.
So out of the second print run, Ananda Chaitanya Prabhu has sold 174 sets in the United States.
Ananda Chaitanya Prabhu az Egyesült Államokban 174 szettet adott el.
He is there for one more day.
Még egy napig van ott.
So anybody in America who wants to purchase, you have to get in touch with him.
Hogyha valaki Amerikában szeretne Navavraja Mahimát, akkor fel kell, hogy vegye vele a kapcsolatot.
How to get in touch with him? Well, on Viber and WhatsApp, his telephone number is...
És Viberen és WhatsAppon a telefonszáma a következő.
What's his telephone number? Maybe he's just sort of shouting it out to me, but Ananda Chaitanya. Well, Bhakti Devi will send it to you. You have it?
Yes.
What is it?
+3630 427 5370.
Okay, say that again.
+3630 427 5370.
36, that's Hungary. 30-427-5370. So he is available. Send your message, and because we're keeping a certain number of sets.
Elérhető, küldjetek neki üzenetet, mert néhány szettet megtartunk.
After this for later distribution.
Későbbi kiosztásra.
And but they will become more expensive.
De akkor drágábbak lesznek.
So if you want to get them at the current price, then you can contact him.
Tehát, hogyha mostani áron szeretnétek megkapni, akkor vegyétek fel vele a kapcsolatot.
And we have no Nitya Sevas to report for the past week.
És az elmúlt hétről nincs Nitya Seva, amiről beszámolhatnánk.
Today is Kamalini's Nitya Seva.
Ma van Kamalini Nitya
Where
Seva.
was she? She was here. Oh, ott vagy. Hare Krishna. Thank you. And so let's keep those going, and now let's continue in our reading.
Úgyhogy folytatódjanak, és folytassuk az olvasást.
So here's a theme that Kaviraj Goswami is going to be emphasizing.
Most ezt a témát Kaviraj Goswami hangsúlyozni fogja.
The emphasis of bogus incarnations.
Az álinkarnációk témáját.
Everywhere the Lord went, all the people said, Krishna has again manifested in Vṛndāvana. One morning, many people came to Akrura Tirtha. As they came from Vṛndāvana, they made a tumultuous sound. Upon seeing Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, all the people offered respects to his lotus feet. The Lord then asked them, where are you coming from? The people replied, Krishna has again manifested himself on the waters of the Kaliya Lake. He dances on the hoods of the serpent Kaliya, and the jewels of those hoods are blazing. This Kaliya Lake must have been a lake within the Jamuna. At present, that's not visible.
Ez a Kaliya tó, biztos egy tó volt a Yamuna folyóban, ami most nem látható.
And as I mentioned, actually the Jamuna is quite a distance from Kaliya Ghat, where actually that pastime took place.
És hogy említettem, most a Yamuna elég messzi van a Kaliya Gháttól, ahol ez a kettelés zajlott.
Because we know that there was this big kadamba tree on the bank of the Kaliya.
Mert tudjuk, hogy a Yamuna partján volt egy nagy kadambafa.
That kadamba tree is still there.
Az a kadambafa most is ott van.
And it was from that kadamba tree that Krishna jumped into the Jamuna.
Arról a kadambafáról ugrott Krishna a Yamunába.
Okay, the pastime you all know.
És a kettelés, amit hallani akartok?
Everyone has seen Lord Krishna himself. There's no doubt about it. Hearing this, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu began to laugh. He then said, everything is correct. Satyahoy. For 3 successive nights, people went to Kaliya Daha to see Krishna, and everyone returned saying, now we have seen Krishna himself. Everyone came before Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and said, now we have directly seen Lord Krishna. Thus, by the mercy of the goddess of learning, they were made to speak the truth. When the people, how was it that people were speaking the truth?
Miért mondták az emberek az igazságot?
When the people saw Caitanya Mahaprabhu, they actually saw Krishna. But because they were following their own imperfect knowledge, they accepted the wrong thing as Krishna. So because they were in illusion, they actually couldn't recognize the real Krishna. They rather had some imaginary Krishna that will see who that imaginary Krishna is.
Mivel illúzióban voltak, nem tudták felismerni a valódi Krishnát, hanem elképzeltek valakit Krishnának, és mindjárt fogjuk látni, hogy kit.
At that time, Balabhadra Bhattacharya placed a request at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, please give me permission to go see Lord Krishna directly. So, when you're in this bewildered condition, then some imaginary Krishna you think is the real Krishna, and you can't recognize the real Krishna when he's standing right before you. You think he's just an ordinary human being.
Amikor valaki ilyen zavarodott, akkor egy képzeletbeli dologról azt tudja gondolni, hogy az Krishna, és nem ismeri fel Krishnát, amikor ott van a szem előtt, és azt gondolja, hogy egy közönséges ember.
Now, Srila Prabhupada here, I'm reading part of the purport.
A magyarázatból olvasok egy részt.
Everyone has to see Krishna according to the Vedic verdict of Vedic literatures, presented by the self-realized spiritual master. A sincere person is able to see Krishna through the transparent via medium of Sri Gurudev, the spiritual master. Unless one is enlightened by the knowledge given by the spiritual master, he cannot see things as they are, even though he remains constantly with the spiritual master. This incident at Kaliya Lake is very instructive for those eager to advance in Krishna consciousness. Ezeket szoktunk fordítani?
Nem hiszem.
Jó, a bakták olvashatják. Devotees with books can read. So, very interesting. Srila Prabhupada said, what was the defect of these people? Well, number one, they either didn't have a spiritual master, or if they had a spiritual master, then he wasn't very enlightened. Or number three, even if he wasn't enlightened, the people were not themselves accepting the teachings of their guru, and therefore they could not see things as they are.
Tehát itt miről volt szó, hogy mi volt a hibájuk ezeknek az embereknek, vagy nem volt lelki tanítómesterük, vagy a lelki tanítómesterük nem volt megvilágosodott, vagy a lelki tanítómesterük megvilágosodott, de ők nem tudták tőle elfogadni a dolgokat, hogy úgy lássanak, ahogy a dolgok valóban vannak.
So Prabhupada isn't decrying the idea of seeing Krishna.
Tehát Prabhupada nem azt mondja, hogy nem lehet látni Krishnát,
But a sincere person is able to see Krishna through the transparent via medium of Sri Gurudev.
de azt mondja, hogy az őszinte ember láthatja Krishnát Sri Gurudeva, a lelki tanítómester átlátszó közegén keresztül.
Now, at that time, Balabhadra Bhattacharya placed a request at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, please give me permission to see Lord Krishna directly. Well, here's this very learned Brahmin who's been accompanying Caitanya Mahaprabhu for getting on to 3 months now.
Itt van ez a nagyon tanult brámana, aki már 3 hónapja kíséri Caitanya Mahaprabhut.
How can you be in illusion?
Hogy lehet valaki illúzióban így?
Because if you choose to reject the Supreme Lord, or if you become distracted by the material energy, even personal association of Krishna will not save you.
Mert hogyha elutasítod a legfelsőbb urat, vagy megzavar az illuzórikus energia, akkor még az úr személyes társasága sem tud megmenteni.
When Balabhadra Bhattacharya asked to see Krishna at Kaliya Lake, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu mercifully slapped him, saying, "You are a learned scholar, but you have become a fool, influenced by the statement of other fools." So, Lord Caitanya, when his servant, when he was in South India, and he got distracted by these gypsies,
amikor az Úr Caitanya Dél-Indiában volt, és a szolgáját megzavarták ezek a cigányok,
Lord Caitanya grabbed him by the hair.
az Úr Caitanya megragadta a hajánál fogva.
Now here, he slapped Balabhadra Bhattacharya.
Itt felpofozta Balabhadra
So
Bhattacharya.
these are sort of the exceptional cases that we have of Lord Caitanya using some element of physical force to wake up his followers.
Ez néhány kivételes példa, amikor Caitanya Mahaprabhu fizikai erőt használ arra, hogy felébressze a követőjét.
Again in the purport, Prabhupada says, Maya is so strong that even a person like Balabhadra Bhattacharya, who was constantly staying with Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, was influenced by the words of fools. He wanted to see Krishna directly by going to Kaliya Lake, but Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, being the original spiritual master, would not allow his servant to fall into such foolishness. He therefore chastised him, slapping him, just to bring him to a real sense of Krishna consciousness. So that Krishnadas, he got allured by some gypsy woman.
Krishnadászt elvarázsolta egy cigányhölgy.
But here, Balabhadra Bhattacharya is living with Krishna, and now he wants to go see Krishna somewhere else.
De itt Balabhadra Bhattacharya Krishnával él, és el akar menni valahova máshova, hogy lássa Krishnát.
Why will Krishna appear in the age of Kali? Foolish people who are mistaken are simply causing agitation and making a tumult. So you think, well, someone says, all right, here's Krishna, but Krishna doesn't appear in Kali Yuga.
Hogy valaki azt mondja, hogy itt van Krishna, de Krishna nem jelenik meg a Kalikorban.
Or at least he doesn't appear as Krishna.
Vagyis nem jelenik meg Krishnaként.
He appears as a covered incarnation.
Hanem egy rejtett inkarnációként jelenik
Prahlad
meg.
Maharaj says that.
Prahlad Maharaj mondja ezt.
Do not become mad. Simply sit down here and tomorrow night you will go see Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya is making a little concession.
Úr Chaitanya ad egy kis engedményt.
But he says tomorrow night you'll go see.
Ő azt mondja, hogy majd holnap este menjél.
But in the meantime the Lord makes an arrangement.
De közben tesz egy elrendezést az Úr.
The next morning some respectable gentleman came to see Caitanya Mahaprabhu and the Lord asked him, have you seen Krishna? These respectable gentlemen replied, at night in the Kaliya Lake, a fisherman lighting a torch in his boat catches many fish. From a distance, people mistakenly think that they are seeing Krishna dancing on the body of the Kaliya serpent. So people are standing on the shore, and at a distance there's somebody fishing.
Tehát az emberek a folyóparton állnak, és a távolban valaki horgászik.
And at night, if you want to attract fish, then you have a lamp.
És éjszaka, hogyha akarod vonzani a halakat, akkor lámpát gyújtasz.
They're attracted by the light.
Vonza őket a fény.
And of course, waves are there, so that means that the lamp is moving.
És persze a víz hullámzik, és ettől mozdul a lámpa.
So this is Krishna.
Ez Krishna.
From a distance, people mistakenly think that they are seeing Krishna dancing on the body of the Kaliya serpent. These fools think that the boat is the Kaliya serpent and the torchlight the jewels on his hoods. People also mistake the fisherman to be Krishna. Actually, Lord Krishna has again returned to Vṛndāvana. That is a truth, and people have seen him. But where they are seeing Krishna is their mistake. It is like considering a dry tree to be a person. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu asked them, where have you seen Krishna directly? The people replied, you are a sannyasi, a renunciant. Therefore you are a moving Narayan, Jangama Narayan. So now these people at least didn't buy into Krishna dancing on the hoods of Kaliya.
Ezek az emberek legalább nem hitték el, hogy Krishna táncol Kaliya csukjáin.
But now they're citing Mayavad philosophy that anyone who's a sannyasi, anyone who takes sannyas, automatically becomes a Narayan.
De ők meg a Mayavada filozófiát hirdetik, hogy bárki, aki elfogadja a szanyász rendet, az Nárayana lesz automatikusan.
Imagine that. You just become a sannyasi and you become God.
Képzeljétek el, szanyászi leszel és Isten leszel.
Now Prabhupada gives this really brilliant argument in the
Prabhupada
purport.
zseniálisan érvel a magyarázatban.
Okay, as a human you were in illusion.
Ember illúzióban voltatok.
And now you took sannyas and you became Narayan.
És aztán szanyászt vettél, és akkor Nárayana lettél.
So Prabhupada says,
Azt mondja Prabhupada.
they never consider why Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, accepts an inferior position as a human being and then again becomes Narayan when he's perfect. Why should Narayan become imperfect? So why does Narayan have to become an imperfect human being to again become perfect? I mean, he's already Narayan.
Miért kéne Nárayannak egy tökéletlen emberi lényé válnia, hogy aztán újra Nárayana legyen belőle?
So he's already Narayan. He doesn't have to do any sadhana again to become
Ő
Narayan.
már eleve Nárayana, miért kéne neki valamilyen szádanát csinálni, hogy újra Nárayana legyen?
The people then said, "You have appeared in Vṛndāvana as an incarnation of Krishna. Just by seeing you, everyone is now liberated." So now they went a step higher and they pointed out, "No, you are Krishna."
Most egy lépéssel feljebb mentek, és azt mondták, hogy nem, te vagy Krishna.
They say you are an incarnation of Krishna.
Azt mondják, hogy te Krishna inkarnációja vagy.
Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu immediately exclaimed, "Vishnu, Vishnu, do not call me the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A jiva cannot become Krishna at any time. Do not even say such a thing." A sannyasi in the renounced order is certainly part and parcel of the complete whole, just as a shining molecular particle of sunshine is part and parcel of the sun itself. Krishna is like the sun, full of six opulences, but the living entity is only a fragment of the complete whole. So Lord Caitanya, even though he is Krishna according to Shastra and great devotees, still he never admits, yes, I am Krishna.
Habár a sászra és nagy bakták szerint az Úr Caitanya maga Krishna, ő sosem ismeri el, hogy ő lenne Krishna.
That said, there are recorded instances when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually manifests his form.
Persze azért vannak feljegyzett események, amikor az Úr Caitanya megnyilvánította a formáját, mint Krishna.
In Navadvip he did that frequently.
Navadvipben ezt többször is tette.
Whether when they had this great revelation, at that time Lord Chaitanya manifests many incarnations.
Amikor volt ez a nagy kinyilvánítása, akkor az Úr Caitanya sok inkarnáció formáját megnyilvánította.
When this Brahmin came, who was worshipping this Gopal Shila,
amikor jött ez a brámana, aki a Gopál Silát imádta,
and Lord Chaitanya stole his food.
És az Úr Caitanya ellopta az ételét.
So then he manifests himself as Krishna.
Akkor is megnyilvánította magát, mint
And
Krishna.
there were other instances.
És voltak más példák is.
In Jagannath Puri, Balabhadra not Balabhadra Bhattacharya, but to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he manifests this Krishna form, Vishnu form, and six-armed form.
Jagannath Puriban Sarvabhauma Bhattacharjának megnyilvánította a Vishnu formáját, a Krishna formáját, a hatkarú formáját.
There's also some other versions that say he showed a 20-armed form.
Van, ahol azt írják, hogy 20 karú formát is nyilvánított.
In any case, but generally Lord Chaitanya in his preaching just wanted himself to be considered as an ordinary human being.
De általában, amikor prédikált, akkor azt akarta, hogy úgy lássák őt, mint egy közönséges ember.
A living entity and the absolute personality of Godhead are never considered equal, just like a fragmental spark can never be considered the original flame. Prabhupada points out that the Mayavadis, when they address each other, Om Namo Narayan, then they address each other as Narayan.
Prabhupada azt mondja, hogy amikor a Mayavádik megszólítják egymást, akkor úgy szólítják meg, hogy Nárayana.
On the other hand, they won't come to the temple to see Narayan.
Ugyanakkor nem jönnek el a templomba, hogy lássák Nárayanát.
Well, this Narayan's good, that Narayan's not good.
Ez a Nárayana jó, az a Nárayana nem jó.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, is always full of transcendental bliss and is accompanied by the potencies known as Ladini and Samvit. The conditioned soul, however, is always covered by ignorance and embarrassed by threefold miseries. Thus, he is a treasure house of all kinds of tribulations. This is a verse written by Sridhar Swami.
Ezt a verset Sridhar Swami írta.
A foolish person who says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the same as the living entity is an atheist, and he becomes subject to punishment by the superintendent of death, Yamaraj. So consider that all of these sannyasis are extremely austere.
Mindezek a szanyászik nagyon lemondottak,
They may be very learned.
lehet, hogy nagyon tanultak is,
Yet at the same time, despite the fact that they live a life of celibacy,
ugyanakkor annak ellenére, hogy cölibátusban élnek,
they may be naishtikis. They may have never passed semen in their whole life.
lehet, hogy egész életükben soha nem vesztették el a magjukat,
And still they're going to hell.
és mégis a pokolba mennek.
Why? Because they minimize the position of the Supreme Lord.
Miért? Mert minimalizálják a legfelsőbb úr helyzetét.
Yastu Narayana Devam Brahma Rudradi Daivata Samatvenaiva Vikshinta Sapashandi Bhavedruvam. A person who considers demigods like Brahma and Shiva to be on an equal level with Narayan is to be considered an offender and a Pashandi. A Pashandi is what we would call a atheist.
Pásandi az, akit mi ateistának neveznénk.
After Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu explained the difference between an ordinary living entity and Supreme Personality of Godhead, the people said, "No one considers you as an ordinary human being. You are like Krishna in every respect, in both bodily features and characteristics." So, these were respectable gentlemen, so they had learning and they had a understanding of what God means.
Tiszteletre méltó úri emberek voltak, akik műveltek voltak, és értették, hogy mit jelent az, hogy
So
Isten.
two things they cite, bodily features and characteristics.
Tehát két dolgot említenek, a testi vonásokat és a jellemzőket.
By your bodily features, we can see that you are none other than the son of Nanda Maharaj, although the golden luster of your body has covered your original complexion. So this is called Swarup Lakshman, or the original or primary characteristic of Krishna.
Ezt úgy hívják, hogy Svarupa Lakshana, vagy Krishna elsődleges eredeti jellemzői.
So when Narayan appears, then we have plenty of pictures of Krishna, so that's how he looks.
Amikor megjelenik Náráján, sok képünk van Krishnáról, úgy néz ki.
These Mayavadis don't look like that.
Ezek a májavádik nem úgy néznek ki.
We have so many, unfortunately, incarnations of God.
Annyi inkarnációja van Istennek,
But they don't look very good.
Sajnos, de nem néznek ki olyan jól.
They're generally quite ugly.
Általában elég csúnyák.
They're in this material body.
Anyagi testük
And
van.
Prabhupada points out, they go to the doctor, they go to the dentist.
És akkor Prabhupád mondja, hogy orvoshoz mennek, fogorvoshoz
They don't
mennek.
have record of Krishna going to a doctor or a dentist.
Nincs feljegyzés arról, hogy Krishna orvoshoz vagy fogorvoshoz menne, mert transzcendentális teste van.
So physical features are because that immediately you can see.
A fizikai vonásokat az ember azonnal látja.
Ajano, Lambatabajo, Kanakai Vadato, very, very tall.
Nagyon
Caitanya
magas
Mahaprabhu.
volt Caitanya Mahaprabhu.
Very beautiful, impressive features, complexion.
Nagyon gyönyörű volt, nagyon szép vonásai voltak, testszíne.
Very beautiful facial features, bodily features.
Gyönyörű volt az arca, a teste.
So this is Swarup Lakshana.
Ez a Svarupa Lakshana.
As the aroma of deer musk cannot be concealed by wrapping it in a cloth, your characteristics as the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be concealed by any means. When Krishna appears, he gives himself away by how he looks.
Amikor Krishna jelenik meg, akkor ő elárulja magát azáltal, ahogy kinéz.
And that means for any incarnation.
És ez azt jelenti, hogy mindegyik inkarnáció.
Krishna appears as a tortoise.
Ez a?
Tortoise.
Krishna megjelenik, mint egy teknős.
So there's still quite few turtles.
Vannak másik teknősök is.
And they range from very small like this to big turtles in the Galapagos.
Vannak egész picik és nagyon nagyok a Galapagos.
But Kurma avatar is 800,000 miles.
De a Kurma avatár, ő 800,000 mérföld hosszú. Nagy.
That's a big turtle.
Az egy nagy teknős.
where does he fit on this planet, which is only 25,000 miles in
Hogy fér el ezen a bolygón,
circumference?
aminek a kerülete 25 000 mérföld?
So what you speak of Matsya Avatar, who's
Hát még
even
Matsya
bigger.
Avatar, aki még nagyobb.
So very, very distinctive.
Nagyon szembetűnő.
And in every species of life, Krishna appears.
És Krishna minden életformában megjelenik.
All 800 and 400,000 species.
Mind a 8.400.000 létformában.
Sanatana Goswami elaborates on
Sanatana Goswami beszél erről.
this. Says there's mosquito incarnation.
Azt mondja, hogy van szúnyog inkarnáció,
And he's there to claim the mosquitoes.
és jön megmenteni a szúnyogokat.
So next time you see a mosquito, you better think twice about.
Hogyha legközelebb szúnyogot látsz, akkor gondold át, hogy mit
And
csinálsz.
if he's very, very big,
És ha nagyon nagy,
then you know who it is.
akkor tudod, hogy ki az.
Good thing is there's no mosquitoes around here nowadays.
Jó, hogy mostanában itt nincsenek
At least very
szúnyogok.
few
Nagyon
in
kevés.
Krishna Valley.
Krishna völgyben.
And all kinds, every species of life. It's amazing.
És minden létformában megjelenik, döbbenetes.
Krishna wants to also liberate them.
Krishna őket is fel akarja szabadítani.
Indeed, your characteristics are uncommon and beyond the imagination of an ordinary living being. Simply by seeing you, the entire universe becomes mad with ecstatic love. Yes. So, especially seeing Krishna, seeing Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the result is people just become ecstatic.
Főleg amikor valaki látja Krishnát, Caitanya Mahaprabhut, annak az eredménye az, hogy extázist tapasztal.
So, beauty invokes that type of, some type of reaction.
A szépség az kivált egyfajta reakciót.
But the extraordinary beauty of Krishna, Caitanya Mahaprabhu, that invokes transcendental ecstasy.
De Krishna és Caitanya Mahaprabhu rendkívüli szépsége transzcendentális extázist eredményez.
If even women, children, old men, meat eaters, or members of the lowest caste can see you even once, they immediately chant the holy name of Krishna, dance like madmen, and become spiritual masters capable of delivering the whole world. A very important statement by these people, respectable gentlemen.
Ez egy nagyon fontos kijelentés ezeknek a tiszteletre méltó úriembereknek.
So, just by seeing, people will chant.
Ha valaki csak meglátja, elkezd énekelni.
So Lord Chaitanya defines those three types of devotees.
Az Úr Caitanya meghatároz háromféle
And
baktát.
he says the Uttama Adhikari is someone, you just see him and you chant Hare Krishna.
És azt mondja, hogy az Uttama Adhikári olyan, hogyha megpillantod, akkor elkezded énekelni a Hare Krishnát.
In any case, these people become purified, they become qualified to be spiritual masters.
De azt mondja, hogy és ezek az emberek képesítetté válnak arra, hogy lelki tanítómesterek
Smarta
legyenek.
Brahmins have problems with Western devotees acting in the role of spiritual masters.
A Smarta Brahmanáknak problémát okoz az, amikor a nyugati bakták a lelki tanítómester szerepét
But
töltik be.
here it says, even of the lowest caste, they become qualified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's empowerment.
De itt azt látjuk, hogy még a legalacsonyabb kasztba származó ember is képesítetté válik az Úr Caitanya felhatalmazásának
Apart
köszönhetően.
from seeing you, whoever listens to your holy name is made mad with ecstatic love for Krishna and is able to deliver the three worlds. So this is the level of empowerment that comes.
Ilyen mértékű felhatalmazás jön.
Simply by hearing your holy name, dog eaters become holy saints. Your uncommon potencies cannot be described in words. In the past, we may have eaten some other things, but I don't think anyone had any dog eating practice here. You didn't eat any dogs.
A múltban ettünk bizonyos dolgokat, de nem hiszem, hogy kutyát valaki evett volna.
Generally, we had dogs in the
Általában
homes and took care of them.
tartottunk kutyát és gondoskodtunk róluk.
So, quoting from third canto,
A harmadik éneket idézve,
Yanamadeya Shavananukirtanad Yat Pranavad Yat Smaranad Apikvachit Shwadhopid Sadya Shavanaya Kalpate Kutapunaste Bhagavan Nudarshanat. To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, even a person born in the family of dog eaters becomes immediately eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or chants about him, hears about his pastimes, offers his obeisances, or even remembers him. I'm not going to read the lengthy purport.
Nem olvasom el a hosszú magyarázatot.
But what to speak of seeing? All right, if you see Krishna, obviously you become purified.
Tehát nyilván, hogyha az ember látja a Krishnát, akkor megtisztul.
So this becomes the last stage of spiritual advancement.
Ez a lelki fejlődés utolsó szintje.
Lord Caitanya says that Bhakti Lata Bij, it ultimately takes shelter at Krishna's lotus feet.
Az Úr Caitanya azt mondja, hogy a Bhakti Lata Bija az végül menedéket vesz Krishna lótuszlábánál.
So when a pure devotee, because now we're talking about someone who's already very advanced in spiritual life, when he sees Krishna face to face, then whatever residual impurity is there becomes completely purified.
Tehát ha egy tiszta bakta, mert itt már egy fejlett baktáról van szó, megpillantja Krishnát, akkor automatikusan azonnal minden esetleges szennyeződés, maradvány teljesen megtisztul.
And one comes ultimately to the platform of Prema Bhakti.
És az ember végül eléri a Prema Bhakti szintjét,
If he's already not there.
ha még nem tartott ott.
So what to speak of those who see Krishna, but even those who just chant his name.
Tehát nem beszélve azokról, akik megpillantják Krishnát, azok is, akik csak a nevét kimondják.
Abhinatva Namanamino, because the name is not different than Krishna.
Mert a név nem különbözik Krishnától.
So they become qualified to perform Vedic sacrifices.
Képesítetté válnak arra, hogy védikus áldozatokat mutassanak
That
be.
means they become Brahmins.
Ami azt jelenti, hogy brámanákká válnak.
Brahman means guru.
Brahman azt jelenti, hogy guru.
But
De
in the purport, Prabhupada says, those who find fault in the Western Vaishnavas should consider the statement from Srimad Bhagavatam and the commentary on this verse by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami has stated that to become a Brahmin, one has to wait for purification and undergo the sacred thread ceremony. But a chanter of the holy name does not have to wait for the sacred thread ceremony. We do not allow devotees to perform sacrifices until they are properly initiated in the sacred thread ceremony. Yet according to this verse, an offenseless chanter, an offenseless chanter of the holy name is already fit to perform a fire ceremony, even though he is not doubly initiated by the sacred thread. This is the verdict given by Lord Kapila Dev in his instruction to his mother Devahuti. It was Lord Kapila Dev who instructed Devahuti in pure Sankhya philosophy. So, technically speaking, yagya means worshipping also the deities.
technikai szempontból a yagya az a murti imádat is.
If a devotee chants purely,
Ha valaki tisztán énekel,
he doesn't need to be second initiated to worship the deities.
nem kell második avatást kapnia ahhoz, hogy imádhassa a murtit.
Someone is more advanced who chants purely and is not initiated than someone who has many initiations and yet doesn't chant purely.
Fejlettebb az, aki tisztán énekel, még akkor is, hogyha nincs avatása, mint az, akinek 2 avatása is van, de nem énekel tisztán.
Purity is not an automatic result of taking initiation.
A tisztaság nem automatikus következménye annak, hogy valaki avatást fogad el.
Purity is based on how someone chants Hare Krishna.
A tisztaság azon alapszik, hogy hogyan énekli valaki a Hare Krishnát.
These glories of yours are only marginal. Originally, you are the son of Maharaj Nanda. So here 2 things are stated.
Tehát itt 2 dolgot mond.
The effect of the holy name,
A szent név hatása,
the effect of seeing Caitanya Mahaprabhu,
Caitanya Mahaprabhu látványának
and
hatása,
his personal appearance.
és az ő személyes megjelenése.
One is Tatashta Lakshana,
Az egyik a tatasztálaksana,
which are the secondary characteristic.
Ami a másodlagos jellemző.
And the other one is the Swarup Lakshana,
A másik pedig a Svarupa Lakshana,
which is the primary
ami az
characteristic.
elsődleges jellemző.
Okay, you should try and sit properly. Not holding these is not technically acceptable. Huh? I'm just talking to you. Not to hold your knees. Yeah. So, Swarup Lakshan, Tatastha Lakshan.
Tehát van Svarupa Lakshana és Tatastha Lakshana.
Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu then bestowed his causeless mercy upon all the people there, and everyone became ecstatic with love of God. Finally, they all returned to their homes. Krishna Premi Mata. Whenever I'm reading this, it was so easy.
Mindig, amikor olvasom ezt, akkor arra gondolok, hogy mennyire könnyű volt.
Lord Chaitanya just blessed them. This is how ultimately one attains love of God.
Az Úr Chaitanya csak megáldotta őket. Ez az, ahogy a végső soron az ember eléri az Isten szeretetet.
After very assiduous practice and making all effort to purify your own heart,
Úgyhogy az ember nagyon nagy erőfeszítést tesz a lelki fejlődésre és arra, hogy megtisztítsa a szívét.
when a devotee is very eager and determined and steadfast,
Amikor a bakta nagyon mohó és eltökélt és kitartó,
then Krishna will give his blessings.
akkor Krishna adja az áldásait.
Here, they didn't do any of that.
Itt ezt nem csinálták.
They were just fortunate enough to see Lord Chaitanya face to face.
Csak annyira szerencsések voltak, hogy szemtől szemben láthatták az Úr Chaitanyát.
And he just gave them love of God.
És ő megadta nekik az Isten szeretetet.
Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu remained for some days at Akrura Tirtha. He delivered everyone simply by distributing the holy name of Krishna and ecstatic love for the Lord. So Lord Chaitanya would teach people about the potency of the holy name, and then he would empower them with bhava or prema.
Tehát az Úr Chaitanya tanította az embereknek a szent név hatalmát, és aztán megáldotta őket bávával vagy prémával.
The Brahmin disciple of Madhavendra Puri went from house to house in Mathura and inspired other Brahmins to invite Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to their homes. So this is the Shranodiya Brahmana, Madhavendra Puri's disciple.
Ez a Sonadiya Brahmana, Madhavendra Puri tanítványa,
And he was encouraging all the Brahmins to invite Lord Chaitanya.
és bátorította a brahmanákat, hogy hívják meg az Úr Chaitanyát.
Thus all the respectable people of Mathura, headed by the Brahmins, came to Balabhadra Bhattacharya and extended invitations to the Lord. In one day, 10 or 20 invitations were received, but Balabhadra Bhattacharya would accept only one of them. Since everyone did not get an opportunity to offer invitations to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they requested the Shranodiya Brahmin to ask the Lord to accept their invitations. The Brahmins from different places, such as Kanya Kubja and South India, who were all strict followers of the Vedic religion, offered invitations to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with great humility. So everyone was offering invitations. Obviously, Lord Chaitanya was going to only go to one place.
Tehát mindenki meghívta az Úr Chaitanyát, de ő csak egy helyre ment el.
But then even that system, they worked out a better system than that.
De aztán még egy ennél jobb rendszert is kidolgoztak.
In the morning, they would all come to Akrura Tirtha and cook food. So all the Brahmins came to Lord Chaitanya. And
Reggelente az összes brahmana eljött a Akrura Tirtára az Úr Chaitanyához.
And they cooked the food right on the spot.
És ott főztek helyben.
So, they made their own little fireplaces with stones. They brought some pots and they cooked.
Építettek saját kis tűzhelyet, hoztak edényeket és főztek.
Then after offering it to the Shalagram Shila, they offered it to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then they made the offering to the deity. They brought their own deities with them.
Hozták magukkal a saját murtiaikat, és nekik adták a felajánlást.
And then obviously Lord Chaitanya had a big feast.
És aztán nyilvánvalóan az Úr Chaitanya nagy lakomát kapott.
Because you have these dozens Brahmins all cooking on their fires, and they must be all cooking all kinds of good things.
Ott van ez a több tucat brahmana, aki a saját tűzhelyén mind főznek, biztos,
And
hogy
now
nagyon finom dolgokat
Lord
készítettek.
Chaitanya is eating
Az Úr
eating
Chaitanya
their cooking.
megeszi a főztjüket.
One day, Caitanya Mahaprabhu sat at the bathing ghat of Akrura Tirtha. The Jamuna is flowing there. This is now past what we see when we go to Vṛndāvana town.
Ott folyik a Yamuna, és ez már túl van azon, amit mi látunk, mint Vṛndāvana városa.
And he had the following thoughts.
A következő gondolatai voltak.
Interesting that Kaviraj Goswami is telling what Lord Chaitanya is thinking.
Érdekes, hogy Kaviraj Goswami elmondja, hogy mit gondolt az Úr Chaitanya.
So, I mean, we just read it, this verse, he had the following thought, but how do you know what Lord Chaitanya is thinking?
Mi csak így olvassuk, hogy hát az Úr Chaitanya ezt gondolta, de honnan tudod, hogy mit gondolt az Úr
That's
Chaitanya?
not an ordinary thing that someone is knowing. Now, Lord Chaitanya thought this.
Ez nem egy közönséges dolog, hogy te tudod, hogy az Úr Chaitanya ezt gondolta.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought, at this bathing place, Akrura saw Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, and all the inhabitants of Braj saw Goloka Vṛndāvana. So, there are two events. One is when Akrura came,
Két esemény van, az egyik, amikor jött Akrura,
and he took a bath. They were leaving Vṛndāvana. They took a bath just on the border of Vṛndāvana and Mathura.
és amikor jöttek el Vṛndāvanból, akkor Mathura és Vṛndāvan határán megfürödtek.
And then another one was when the Brijbasis, I mentioned this the last week, after lifting of Govardhan Hill, then Krishna all brought them here. They wanted to know if they were going back to Godhead.
És ezt említettem már a múlt héten, hogy a Govardhan hegy felemelése után Krishna elhozta őket ide, és itt megfürödtek, akarták tudni, hogy visszamennek-e
So
Istenhez.
Krishna wanted to assure them they were going back to Godhead.
Krishna biztosítani akarta őket, hogy visszamennek Istenhez.
So he showed them Goloka, Vṛndāvana.
Megmutatta neki Goloka Vṛndāvant,
That's confirmed here.
ezt itt megerősíti.
What Akrura saw was a little different.
Amit Akrura látott, az egy kicsit más volt.
He saw Vaikuntha Goloka,
Ő a Vaikunta Gólokát látta,
and this is Braj.
ami Vraja.
So, and when they saw it, then they saw there's same house, it looked all the same, everything was the same way they were living.
És ők meglátták, hogy ugyanolyan házak vannak, minden ugyanúgy néz ki, mint ahol laknak.
So now, well, we're going back to Godhead, but back to Godhead is just like where we are.
Akkor gondolták, hogy hát visszamegyünk Istenhez, de vissza Istennél az ugyanolyan, mint ahol most vagyunk.
While considering how Akrura remained within the water, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately jumped in and stayed underwater for some time. Of course, Lord Chaitanya doesn't have to breathe.
Persze az Úr Chaitanyának nem kell lélegeznie.
He doesn't drown.
Ő nem fullad meg.
But still, in fact, you know, there were instances where Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that Gorkishore Das Babaji,
De Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur írja Górakishore Das Babajiról,
when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur offered to acquire some things for him, like some cloth, because he always wore just all torn, used things.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur felajánlotta neki, hogy vesz neki új ruhát, mert mindig ilyen szakadt ruhákban járt.
He got very upset,
Nagyon mérges lett.
and he ran into the Ganga,
Beszaladt a Gangesbe,
and he was gone.
és eltűnt.
So it was just a month later that he came back out.
És egy hónap múlva jött csak ki.
He said, don't offer me any new things or anything like
Új dolgokat ne ajánljál nekem.
that. And yes, Saranga Murari, his disciple was Murari Caitanya.
Saranga Murari, és a tanítványa volt Murari Chaitanya.
And Saranga Murari brought him back to life because he died.
Saranga Murari életre keltette, mert meghalt.
He was a corpse. He was just a child who died.
Egy gyerek volt, aki meghalt, és csak egy tetem volt már.
And his deity had told him, you know, you're getting old, you need to accept some disciples who will continue to take care of me.
És a Murtia mondta neki, hogy most már öregszel, kellene, hogy legyenek tanítványaid, akik majd gondoskodni fognak rólad.
So he said, okay, first person I see tomorrow, I'll accept him as my
És
disciple.
akkor mondta, hogy jó, az első ember, akit meglátok, el fogom fogadni a
Well,
tanítványomként.
he was in the Ganga and he was chanting Gayatri.
Bement a Gangesbe, és a Gayatrit mondta.
So, you know, people have a habit, they don't necessarily cremate a person, but they just put his body into the Ganga.
Van, amikor az emberek nem hamvasztanak el valakit, hanem csak beteszik a testét a Gangesbe.
So, this child's body touched him.
És ennek a gyereknek a teste megérintette.
So he said, first person I meet, I'm going to make a disciple.
És akkor mondta, hogy jó, hát az első emberrel, akivel találkozom, hogy tanítványommá fogom tenni.
So he brought him back to life.
Úgyhogy felélesztette.
And so he became known as Murari Caitanya.
És így a Murari Caitanyaként lett híres.
Of course, word got back to the parents.
Persze a szülőkhöz eljutott ennek a
And
híre.
the parents came and said, oh, our son is alive.
És akkor jöttek a szülők, és mondták, hogy él a fiunk.
He says, so they wanted their child back.
Vissza akarták kapni a gyereküket.
So, you know, the guru said, ask him whatever he wants.
És akkor a guru mondta, hogy jó, hát kérdezzétek meg őt, amit akar.
So Murari Caitanya said, well, I died and you threw me in the water?
És akkor mondta Murari Caitanya, hogy amikor meghaltam, bedobtatok a vízbe,
And he gave me life?
és ő adott nekem életet.
So I'm not your child anymore, I'm his.
Most már nem a ti gyereketek vagyok, hanem az övé.
So I'm not going back to you.
Nem megyek vissza hozzátok.
So they had to be satisfied with the fact that he was alive.
Úgyhogy elégedetnek kellett
But
lenniük
this
pusztán azzal,
Caitanya
hogy él.
Murari, he used to also dive in the water.
Caitanya Murari is ezt csinálta, hogy bement a
And he
vízbe,
would just stay in the water.
és ott maradt.
And sometimes he used to play with tigers.
Néha tigrisekkel játszott.
Big tigers, and he used to slap them and play with them.
Pofozgatta őket, játszott velük.
So his body was spiritual, and therefore none of these things really affected him.
A teste lelki volt, és ezért mindezek a dolgok nem voltak rá hatással.
Well, Lord Chaitanya jumped in.
Az Úr Chaitanya beugrott.
When Krishna Das saw that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was drowning, he cried and shouted very loudly. Balabhadra Bhattacharya immediately came and pulled the Lord out. So this Krishna Das, he was a novice. He really didn't know what do you do when the Lord jumps in the water.
Ez a Krishna Das egy ilyen új személy volt, és nem tudta, hogy mit kell csinálni, amikor az Úr beugrik a vízbe.
So Balabhadra Bhattacharya jumped in and they pulled Lord Chaitanya out.
Akkor Balabhadra Bhattacharya beugrott, és kihúzták az Úr Chaitanyát.
After this, Balabhadra Bhattacharya took the Shanodiya Brahmin to a secluded place and consulted with him. He says, Balabhadra Bhattacharya said, since I was present today, it was possible for me to pull the Lord up. However, if he starts to drown at Vṛndāvana, who will help him? Now, there's a crowd of people here, and these invitations are causing me much disturbance. In addition, the Lord is always ecstatic and emotional. I do not find the situation here very good. It would be good if we could get Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu out of Vṛndāvana. This is my final conclusion. Reminded me of the way Shambhihari communicates to me.
Erről eszembe jutott, hogy Shambhihari beszél velem.
There's all these people just phoning me all the time. They want to know this, they want to know that. So what do I do? They're just all giving me a headache.
Annyi ember hívogat állandóan, ezt akarnak, azt akarnak, fáj tőle a fejem.
So that was Balabhadra Bhattacharya was also complaining.
Így panaszkodott Balabhadra Bhattacharya is.
So people are coming, I want to cook, I want to invite Lord Chaitanya, and I want an interview. So he had to organize all of these things.
Jönnek az emberek, főzni akarnak az Úr Chaitanyának, akarnak vele találkozni, ezteket kellett szerveznie.
And probably the Indian people weren't as self-controlled as Hungarians.
És valószínűleg az indiaiak nem voltak olyan önfegyelmezettek, mint a
The
magyarok.
Shanodiya Brahmin said, let's take him to Prayag and go along the banks of the Ganges. It will be very pleasurable to go that way. After going to the holy place named Shorokshetra, which I don't know what it is and I didn't look it up, and taking bath in the Ganges, let us go to Sri Caitanya, let us take Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu that way and go. Now they're talking about leaving Vṛndāvana.
Nem tudom, hogy mi ez a szorok sétra, nem néztem meg, de most arról beszélnek, hogy elhagyni Vṛndāvant.
It is now the beginning of the month of Magh. If we go to Prayag at this time, we shall have an opportunity to bathe for a few days at the Makara Sankranti. So there's a Magh Mela or Kumbh Mela taking place.
Van egy Mág Méla vagy Kumbha Méla.
So he says, let's go over there and we can bathe.
Azt mondják, hogy menjünk oda és fürödjünk meg.
The Shanadiya Brahmin continued, kindly submit to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu the unhappiness you are feeling within yourself. Then propose that we all go to Prayag on the full moon day of the month of Magh. So he said, all right, go tell Lord Caitanya.
Jó, mondd meg az Úr Caitanyának.
Tell the Lord of the happiness you will feel in traveling via the banks of the Ganges. Balabhadra Bhattacharya therefore submitted this prayer to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Balabhadra Bhattacharya told the Lord, I can no longer tolerate the disturbance of the crowd. People are coming one after another to offer invitations. Early in the morning, people come here and not seeing you present, they simply tax my brain. I will be very happy if we all leave and take the path by the banks of the Ganges. Then we can have the opportunity to bathe in the Ganges in Prayag during Makara Sankranti. So it's quite significant that here you have living entities, albeit they're great Vaishnavas.
Nagyon jelentőségteli, hogy itt vannak élőlények, akik persze Vaisnavák.
And they're telling Lord Caitanya what they would like him to do.
És ők mondják az Úr Caitanyának, hogy mit szeretnének, hogy mit csináljon.
I mean, on one side, they're concerned about Lord Caitanya's well-being.
Először is aggódnak az Úr Caitanya jóléte felől.
But on the other hand, they're getting overwhelmed.
De ugyanakkor túl sok is nekik.
In other words, it's getting too much for Balabhadra Bhattacharya to handle the consequence of Lord Caitanya's attractiveness.
Balabhadra Bhattacharya már besokalt attól, hogy kezelnie kell azt, hogy mennyire vonzó az Úr Caitanya.
Drawing all of these people here, and so he's saying, it just taxes my brain.
Ide vonzza mindezeket az embereket, és azt mondja, hogy ez már az agyamra mennek.
So I'm listening to Srila Prabhupada's 1977 talks again.
Megint Srila Prabhupád 1977-es beszélgetéseit hallgatom.
We're still in March.
Márciusban vagyunk.
And this morning I was talking to Prabhupada. I mean, I can't even repeat what Prabhupada is saying here.
Ma reggel, ahogy hallgattam Prabhupádot, nem is akarom itt elismételni, amit mondott.
He's talking to one of his disciples about this court case, deprogramming court case was a very important court case.
Egy tanítványához beszél egy bírósági per kapcsán, ami egy nagyon fontos per volt.
And what Prabhupada told them, he said, this is what you should tell these people, it's what you should tell the judge and everyone, what people in the material world are like.
És akkor Prabhupád mondta, hogy mondd meg a bírónak és az embereknek, hogy ilyenek és ilyenek az emberek az anyagi világban.
But anyway, later on, when Srila Prabhupada starts getting sick, you can see that he just places himself more or less in Tamal Krishna Maharaj's hands.
De később látjuk, hogy amikor Prabhupád megbetegszik, akkor Tamal Krishna Maharajra bízza magát.
And sometimes we see that, some devotees took some exception that Tamal Krishna Maharaj was in this position of being a secretary, and he was the one who Prabhupada would ask, what should we do?
És ugye látjuk, hogy vannak bakták, akik mondják, hogy hát Tamal Krishna Maharaj volt a titkár, és Prabhupád tőle kérdezte meg, hogy mit csináljon.
But we see a very similar situation here with Balabhadra Bhattacharya and Caitanya Mahaprabhu.
Nagyon hasonló az, amit itt látunk Balabhadra Bhattacharya és Caitanya Mahaprabhu kapcsán.
So Balabhadra Bhattacharya is not afraid to say, actually this situation is too much for me.
Balabhadra Bhattacharya nem meri mondani, hogy ez a helyzet igazából nekem túl sok.
It's a consideration. If you're taking care of somebody, obviously you have to be in a condition where you can continue doing that.
Hogyha gondoskodsz valakiről, akkor fontos, hogy olyan helyzetben legyél, hogy ezt tud folytatni.
Although Caitanya Mahaprabhu had no desire to leave Vṛndāvana, he began to speak sweet words just to fulfill the desire of his devotee. But Caitanya Mahaprabhu had no intention to leave.
Caitanya Mahaprabhunak nem állt szándékában elmenni.
But then what would have happened? Would he just stayed in Vṛndāvana?
De akkor mi történt volna? Csak ott maradt volna Vṛndāvanban?
Leave all the devotees in Puri and just leave them there?
Maga mögött hagyta volna az összes baktát Puriban, és csak ott élt
We'd have
volna?
like a whole different Caitanya Charitamrita had Caitanya Mahaprabhu stayed in Vṛndāvana.
Akkor egy egészen más Caitanya Charitamritánk lenne, hogyha az Úr Caitanya Vṛndāvanban maradt volna.
Rup Sanatan would have come, and so devotees would have, all devotees would have then come there.
Rupa, Sanatan oda jöttek volna, az összes bakta oda jött volna.
Anyway, this is sort of the flow of the pastimes. So Lord Chaitanya replies in this way.
Tehát így folyik a kesztelés, és az Úr Chaitanya így válaszolt.
You've brought me here to show me Vṛndāvana. I'm very much indebted to you, and I shall not be able to repay this debt. This is like when, Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada was feeling very despondent.
Volt, amikor Srila Prabhupada nagyon lehangolt volt.
And just because, if you're ill for an extended period of time, it becomes very, very depressing.
Amikor valaki hosszú ideig beteg, az nagyon lehangoló.
Confined in one place.
Egy helyhez vagy kötve.
So, on a bed.
Egy ágyhoz.
So, Krishna says, Prabhupada, why don't we go see, why don't we travel west?
És akkor Krishna Maharaj felvetett, hogy miért nem utazunk nyugatra.
Prabhupada had sort of brought up the topic, but not so seriously, but then he was encouraging Prabhupada.
Prabhupada már felvetette ezt a témát, de Krishna Maharaj bátorította erre.
And it brought back Prabhupada's enthusiasm. We were talking, yes, we'll go to New York, and there we have the skyscraper.
És ilyen lelkesen beszélt hozzá, hogy elmegyünk New Yorkba, és ott vannak a felhőkarcolók.
And we'll go to Gitanagari farm.
Aztán elmegyünk a Gitanagari farmra.
Prabhupada said, yes, I will show them I will implement Varnashram there.
És akkor Prabhupada mondja, hogy igen, ott be fogom vezetni a varnásramát.
Prabhupada, Krishna Maharaj tells Prabhupada, all the devotees in America, they will all come.
És akkor Krishna Maharaj mondja, hogy Amerikából az összes bakta oda jönne majd, ahol leszel.
Just your presence, book distribution will just explode.
És a puszta jelenlétettől robbanni fog a könyvosztás.
It's very interesting when you follow those conversations, Prabhupada gets more enthusiastic. He becomes very, very enthusiastic.
Nagyon érdekes, hogyha követed ezeket a beszélgetéseket, akkor Prabhupada egyre lelkesebb és lelkesebb lesz.
And then the doctor says, you travel, you may die.
És akkor az orvos azt mondja, hogy ha utazol, lehet, hogy meg fogsz halni.
No, Prabhupada said, doesn't matter. He says, on the top of the skyscraper, put my samadhi over there.
Akkor Prabhupada mondta, hogy nem baj, a felhőkarcoló tetejére tegyétek a szamádimat.
Leave here, leave there.
Itt halok meg, ott halok meg.
Devotees are everywhere.
Bakták vannak mindenhol.
Deities are there.
Murtik vannak.
It's all Vṛndāvana.
Ez mind Vṛndāvana.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you have brought me here to show me Vṛndāvana. I'm very much indebted to you and shall not be able to repay this debt. Oh yes, then when Prabhupada got as far as London,
és amikor Prabhupada Londonba ért,
and his health really deteriorated,
és ott nagyon romlott az egészsége,
so he said, take me back.
Mondta, hogy vigyetek vissza.
And when Prabhupada, the real circuitous route, when they actually got back to Vṛndāvana,
és amikor körbeértek, visszaértek Vṛndāvanba,
Prabhupada said, you took me there, and now you brought me back without any discomfort.
Prabhupada mondta, hogy oda vittél és visszahoztál minden kényelmetlenség nélkül.
Pray to Krishna to bless you.
Imádkozni fogok Krishnához, hogy áldjon meg téged.
So whatever your desire, I must do. Wherever you take me, I shall go. So here now Lord Chaitanya says, I'm so indebted to you. You brought me to see Vṛndāvana. Now, whatever you want to do, then I cannot repay you.
Az Úr Chaitanya mondja, hogy annyira leköteleztél azzal, hogy elhoztál ide, az adósod vagyok, és azt fogom csinálni, amit mondasz.
We're doing good time-wise.
Jól állunk az idővel.
The next morning, Caitanya Mahaprabhu got up early. After taking his bath, he became ecstatic with love, knowing that he now had to leave Vṛndāvana. So Lord Chaitanya is now feeling the ecstasy of separation, just like Krishna when he left Vṛndāvana.
Az Úr Caitanya most az elkülönülés extázisát tapasztalja, épp úgy, ahogy Krishna, amikor hagyta el Vṛndāvant.
This attraction to Vṛndāvana is an extremely powerful thing.
Ez a Vṛndāvanhoz való vonzódás egy nagyon hatalmas dolog.
So, you know, the residents of Vṛndāvana, they stayed there. Krishna left, they stayed there.
Vṛndāvan lakói ott maradtak, pedig Krishna elment.
Of course, they wanted to go to Mathura, but Krishna says, don't come because my enemies will cause too much trouble for you.
Persze el akartak menni Mathurába, de Krishna mondta, hogy ne gyertek, mert az ellenségeim túl sok gondot fognak okozni.
But anyway, and then Krishna went to Dwarka.
Aztán Krishna Dvárakába ment.
But they didn't leave. They wouldn't leave Vṛndāvana.
Ők meg nem hagyták volna el Vṛndāvant.
They're separated from Krishna, but they wouldn't be separated from Vṛndāvana.
Krishnától elváltak, de Vṛndāvantól nem akartak elválni.
Actually, Krishna is in Vṛndāvana. Krishna never leaves Vṛndāvana.
Persze Krishna igazából Vṛndāvanban van, sose hagyja el Vṛndāvant.
Vṛndāvanam parityaja ekapada gacchati. Krishna never steps out of Vṛndāvana.
Krishna sohasem tesz egy lépést se Vṛndāvanon kívülre.
But in a visible form, Krishna had gone to Mathura and Dwarka.
De a látható formájában elment Mathurába és Dvárakába.
Although the Lord did not exhibit any external symptoms, his mind was filled with ecstatic love. How does he know what was in Lord Chaitanya's mind?
Honnan tudja, hogy mi volt az Úr Caitanya
Lord Chaitanya's
elméjében?
mind was filled with ecstatic love.
Hogy az elméjét megtöltötte az extatikus
So of
szeretet.
course, no doubt, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recounted all of these things to devotees in Puri when he got there.
Kétségtelen, hogy az Úr Caitanya beszélt ezekről a dolgokról Puriban a baktáknak, amikor visszaért.
But nonetheless, we have the quality of this type of authorship, which is not just based on literary ability.
De látjuk ezt a fajta szerzőiséget, amikor az, hogy valaki ír, az nem csak az írói képességén alapszik,
But it's also based upon spiritual advancement.
hanem a lelki fejlettségén is.
At that time, Balabhadra Bhattacharya said, let's go to Mahavan, Gokula. Saying this, Balabhadra made Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sit aboard a boat. After they crossed the river, he took the Lord with him. Both Rajput Krishnadas and the Shanudiya Brahmin knew the path along the Ganges bank very well. While walking, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, understanding that the others were fatigued, took them all beneath a tree and sat down. Now this sounds like, you just cross the river Ganges, and on the other cross the river Jamuna, and on the other side is the Ganges.
Ez most itt úgy hangzik, mintha átkelt volna a Yamunán, és a másik oldalon ott lett volna a Ganges.
But there's quite a lot of distance, so they walked.
De ott elég nagy a távolság, úgyhogy ott gyalogoltak.
They went to the Ganges.
Elmentek a Gangeshez.
So the Jamuna is flowing in a south, and the Ganges is flowing north, not flowing up north, but one is below the other one.
A Yamuna délre folyik, a Ganges pedig északra nem, hogy felfelé folyik, hanem az egyik a másik alatt van.
Anyway, they got tired.
De elfáradtak.
Lord Chaitanya is very big, they're very small, so he takes big steps.
Az Úr Caitanya nagyon nagy, ő kicsik, Úr Caitanya nagyokat lép.
So they got tired and they sat down under a tree.
És leültek egy fa alá.
There were many cows grazing near that tree, and the Lord was very pleased to see them. Suddenly, a cowherd boy blew on his flute, and immediately the Lord was struck with ecstatic love. So the sound of the flute immediately invoked ecstatic love.
Tehát a fuvola hangja azonnal felébresztette benne az extatikus szeretetet.
So this is called udipan.
Ezt úgy hívják, hogy uddipana.
Something that invokes emotion.
Valami, ami felébreszt egy
So
érzelmet.
devotees come in, the sight of the deity, and then you feel very blissful.
Bejönnek a bakták, és a murtiknak a látványától nagy boldogságot érzünk.
So nectar of devotion says the dress, the ornaments, the Lord's form, these things all invoke emotion.
Az odaadás nektárja mondja, hogy az Úr ruhája, a díszei, a formája mind érzelmeket váltanak ki.
So when we're chanting kirtan, we have emotion. Of course, Lord Chaitanya's emotion is different than ours.
Amikor éneklünk a kirtanban, akkor is vannak érzelmeink. Persze az Úr Chaitanya érzelmei mások, mint a miénk.
But it's the same principle.
De ugyanaz az elv.
And so this is what Krishna consciousness is about. Always feeding our senses with those things that invoke Krishna consciousness.
És erről szól a Krishna tudat, hogy mindig olyan dolgokkal hozzuk kapcsolatba az érzékszerveinket, amelyek táplálják a Krishna tudatunkat.
Because the same thing happens when you see material things.
Mert ugyanezt történik, amikor anyagi dolgokat látunk.
So you see material things, they invoke another type of emotion.
Hogyha anyagi dolgokat látunk, akkor azok másfajta érzelmet ébresztenek fel.
Man sees a beautiful woman, then he gets the emotion of lust.
Hogyha egy férfi egy gyönyörű nőt lát, akkor a kéjvágy ébred fel benne.
Comes in his heart.
Megjelenik a szívében.
And then there are the anubhavs. Then there are the different bodily symptoms that are connected to that.
Aztán ott vannak az anubhávák, a különböző testi jellemzők, amik ehhez kapcsolódnak.
Filled with ecstatic love, the Lord fell unconscious to the ground. He foamed at the mouth, and his breathing stopped. So he stopped to breathe.
Abba hagyta a lélegzést.
Although usually that meant that his breathing just became almost nothing.
Általában ez azt jelentette, hogy szinte egyáltalán nem lélegzett.
Otherwise devotees would just panic.
Máskülönben a bakták pánikba estek volna.
But Bhattacharya was experienced. He had lots of experience with Caitanya Mahaprabhu, different ecstatic symptoms.
De Balabhadra Bhattacharya tapasztalt volt, már tapasztalta Caitanya Mahaprabhu extatikus szimptomáit.
So as I was mentioning, that's why devotees stay away from material impulses.
Ezért mondtam, hogy a bakták tartsák távol magukat az anyagi impulzusoktól.
Internet, movies, etc. Because one is they invoke emotion and they also invoke certain types of embedded habits.
Internet, filmek, ezek érzelmeket váltanak ki, és szokásokat ültetnek el bennünk.
So there's Krishna consciousness and then there's Maya consciousness.
Van Krishna tudat és van Maya tudat.
While the Lord was unconscious, 10 cavalry soldiers belonging to the Mohammedan Pathan military order rode up and dismounted. So here come Pathans. Now, Pathans are, in India, they're called Pathans. What you've heard of, if you see the news, are the Pashtun in Afghanistan.
Itt jönnek a pátánák, Indiában így hívják őket, és aztán, amikről ti tudtok, ugye Afganisztánban úgy hívják őket, hogy Pashtun.
So the Pashtun, they're tribes that live Afghanistan, Pakistan.
Pashtun törzsek Afganisztánban, Pakisztánban élnek.
And when those Afghanis conquered India, then they were called Pathans.
És amikor ezek az afgánok meghódították Indiát, úgy hívták őket, hogy pátánák.
So if the king was Afghani, then he's called Loti.
Hogyha a király afgán volt, akkor úgy hívták, hogy Loti.
And the capital was of course in Delhi.
És persze a főváros az Delhi volt.
And then they got unseated by Babur.
És Babur trónfosztotta őket.
And then there was Babur, and his son was, what was, then his grandson was Akbar, whose father was, anyway, so...
Humayun.
Humayun, yes. So, and then they continued on for quite some time.
Tehát volt Babur, a fia volt Humayun, és ők elég sokáig uralkodtak.
So, Moguls. Seeing the Lord unconscious, the soldiers thought, this sannyasi must have possessed a large quantity of gold. These 4 rogues here must have taken away the sannyasi's riches after killing him by making him take the poison Dutura. Thinking this, the Pathan soldiers arrested the 4 persons and decided to kill them. Because of this, the 2 Bengalis began to tremble. Bengalis are generally not in the soldier caste.
bengáliak általában nincsenek a katonai rendben.
But the devotee Krishna Das, who belonged to the Rajput race, in other words, they were from Rajasthan, was very fearless. And the Shanodiya Brahmin was also fearless, and he spoke very bravely. The Brahmin said, "You Pathan soldiers are all under the protection of your king. Let us go to your commander and get his decision. This sannyasi is my spiritual master, and I am from Mathura. I am a Brahmin, and I know many people who are in the service of the Mohammedan king." So he tried to, obviously if someone's going to kill you, then you try and talk him out of it.
Ha valaki meg akar ölni, akkor nyilván próbálod lebeszélni erről.
This sannyasi sometimes falls unconscious due to the influence of a disease. Please sit down here and you will see that he will very soon regain consciousness and his normal condition. Sit down here for a while and keep us all under arrest. When the sannyasi regains his senses, you can question him. Then, if you like, you can kill us all. So ask him when he comes back to consciousness, and if he says, "We tried to kill him," then you can kill us.
Mint hogy nézzük meg, hogyha újra eszméletéhez tér, akkor meg tudjátok kérdezni tőle, és hogyha azt mondja, hogy meg akartuk ölni, akkor megölhettek minket.
The Pathan soldiers said, "You are all rogues. 2 of you belong to the district of Mathura, and the other 2 who are trembling belong to Bengal." Rajput Krishnadas said, "I have my home here, and I also have about 200 Turkish soldiers and about 100 cannons." Turkey. So now the Turks had also come, but for a very short period of time.
Jöttek a törökök is, de nagyon rövid időre.
So it may have been in some state there as mercenaries.
Lehet, hogy volt olyan állam, ahol voltak zsoldosok.
But this is a bluff, you're just bluffing.
De ugye itt csak blöffölt.
If I call loudly, they will come immediately to kill you and plunder your horses and saddles. So no, I was threatening them.
És megfenyegeti őket.
The Bengali pilgrims are not rogues. You are rogues, for you want to kill the pilgrims and plunder them. Upon hearing this challenge, the Pathan soldiers became hesitant. Then suddenly Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu regained consciousness. Coming to his senses, the Lord very loudly began chanting the holy name, Hari Hari. The Lord raised his arms upward and began to dance in ecstatic love. When the Lord shouted very loudly in ecstatic love, it appeared to the Mohammedan soldiers that their hearts were struck by thunderbolts. Seized by fear, all the Pathan soldiers immediately released the 4 persons. Thus Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu did not see his personal associates arrested. At that time, Balabhadra Bhattacharya went to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and made him sit down. Seeing the Mohammedan soldiers, the Lord regained his normal senses, his external consciousness, bhaya hoila.
Külső tudatára ébredt.
All the Mohammedan soldiers then came before the Lord, worshipped his lotus feet and said, "Here are 4 rogues. These rogues have made you take dutura. Having made you mad, they have taken your possessions." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "These are not rogues. They are my associates. Being a sannyasi beggar, I do not possess anything. Due to epilepsy," so Lord Chaitanya confirmed what he said, not due to ecstatic love. He said, "Due to epilepsy, I sometimes fall unconscious. Out of their mercy, these 4 men maintain me." Among the Mohammedans was a grave person who was wearing a black dress. People called him a saintly person. And this is very interesting. This is where we're ending off.
Ez nagyon érdekes, itt fogunk megállni.
Lord Chaitanya quoting the Quran.
Az Úr Chaitanya a Koránt fogja idézni.
It doesn't give reference, he just says what its real meaning is.
Nem mond konkrét hivatkozást, csak hogy mi igazából a tanítás.
The heart of that saintly person softened upon seeing Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He wanted to talk to him and establish impersonal Brahman on the basis of his own scripture, the Quran. Svashastra, he says, his own Shastra. When the person established the impersonal Brahman conception of the absolute truth on the basis of the Quran, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu refuted his argument. Whatever argument he put forward, the Lord refuted them all. Finally, the person became stunned and could not speak. Caitanya Mahaprabhu said, I'm just looking what word he uses. Tomara Shastra. He says, your scripture. The Quran has certainly established impersonalism, but at the end, it refutes that impersonalism and establishes the personal God. The Quran accepts the fact that ultimately there is only one God. He's full of opulence and his bodily complexion is blackish. I asked devotees who are Muslims, do you have any awareness of this? He says, no, they've read this, we couldn't figure where in the Quran does it say that.
Muszlim baktáktól, hogy tudatában vannak ennek, és azt mondták, hogy nem tudják, hogy ez hol van a Koránban.
Obviously it requires elaboration, but according to the Quran, the Lord has a supreme, blissful, transcendental body. He is the absolute truth, the all-pervading, omniscient, and eternal being. He is the origin of everything. Creation, maintenance, and dissolution come from him. He is the original shelter of all gross and subtle cosmic manifestation. The Lord is the supreme truth, worshipable by everyone. He is the cause of all causes. By engaging in his devotional service, the living entity is relieved from material existence. No conditioned soul can get out of material bondage without serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Love at his lotus feet is the ultimate goal of life. The happiness of liberation whereby one merges into the Lord's existence cannot even be compared to a fragment of the transcendental bliss obtained by service unto the Lord's lotus feet. In the Quran, there are descriptions of fruitive activity, speculative knowledge, mystic power, and union with the Supreme. But ultimately, everything is refuted, and the Lord's personal feature and his devotional service is established. The scholars of the Quran are not very advanced in knowledge. Although there are many methods prescribed, they do not know that the ultimate conclusion should be considered the most powerful. This is a tradition, philosophical principle, and it's cited, it's quoted. I think Jiva Goswami gives this quote, that when there is a string of conclusions or instructions, then the last one is always the most powerful.
Ez egy hagyományos filozófiai elv, és azt hiszem, hogy Jiva Goswami idézi, hogyha sorolva vannak különböző érvek, akkor az utolsó a leghangsúlyosabb.
So a person may say many things, but the last thing is the most important.
Mondhat valaki sok dolgot, de amit utoljára mond, az a legfontosabb.
And this is also so, for instance, Srila Prabhupada may have said and done many things throughout his 12 years with us.
Srila Prabhupádra is igaz ez, hogy lehet, hogy sok mindent csinált a 12 év alatt, amíg velünk volt.
But the last thing he said and the last things he does are considered to be the most conclusive.
De amit utoljára mondott, és amit utoljára csinált, az a leghangsúlyosabb.
Seeing your own Quran and deliberating over what is written there, what is your conclusion? Lord Chaitanya is asking him, what's your conclusion? The saintly Muhammad replied, all that you have said is true. This has certainly been written in the Quran, but our scholars can neither understand nor accept it. So even if they understand it, they're not willing to accept the fact that yes, God is a person and he has a blackish complexion.
Még ha megértik, akkor se fogadják el, hogy igen, Isten egy személy, és feketés a színe.
Usually they describe the Lord's impersonal aspect, but they hardly know the Lord's personal feature is worshipable. They are undoubtedly lacking this knowledge. Since you are that very same Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, please be merciful upon me. I am fallen and unfit. I have studied the Mohammedan scripture very extensively, but from it I cannot conclusively decide what the ultimate goal of life is or how I can approach it. He's honest.
Őszinte.
Now that I have seen you, my tongue is chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The false prestige I felt from being a learned scholar is now gone. Saying this, the saintly Muhammad fell at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and requested him to speak of life's ultimate goal and the process by which it could be obtained. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu says, please get up. You have chanted the holy name of Krishna, therefore the sinful reactions you have accrued for many millions of lives are now gone. You are now pure. Caitanya Mahaprabhu then told all the Mohammedans there, chant the holy name of Krishna, chant the holy name of Krishna. As they all began to chant, they were overwhelmed by ecstatic love. Here again, Mohammedans, and they're just given love of Krishna.
Látjuk, hogy itt mohamedánok, muszlimok megkapják a Krishna iránti szeretetet.
In this way, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu indirectly initiated the saintly Mohammedans by advising him to chant the holy name of Krishna. The Mohammedan's name was changed to Ramdas. So he was now called Ramdas. There was also another Pathan Muslim present whose name was Vijuli Khan. Vijuli Khan was very young and he was son of the king. All the other Mohammedan Pathans, headed by Ramdas, were his servants. Vijuli Khan also fell down at the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord placed his foot on his head. Bestowing his mercy upon them in this way, Caitanya Mahaprabhu left. All the Pathan Mohammedans then became mendicants. They just all became sadhus. Later, these very Pathans became celebrated as the Pathan Vaishnavas. Now, I couldn't find anything on Pathan Vaishnavas, but here it is.
Nem találtam semmit a Pátána Vaisnavákról, de itt van.
They toured all over the country and chanted the glorious activities of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Vijuli Khan became a greatly advanced devotee, and his importance was celebrated at every holy place of pilgrimage. In this way, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu performed his pastimes. Coming to the western part of India, he bestowed good fortune upon the Yavanas and Milechas. Caitanya Mahaprabhu next went to a holy place of pilgrimage called Shorokshetra. He took his bath in the Ganges there and started for Prayag on the path along the banks of the Ganges. And we'll stop there. 215. We did
Itt
good.
megállunk a 215.
So Lord Chaitanya's left Vṛndāvana.
Tehát az Úr Caitanya elhagyta Vrindávant,
And he will now go back to Jagannath Puri.
és most vissza fog menni Jagannath Puriba,
And that's going to be the last phase of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's travels.
és ez lesz Caitanya Mahaprabhu utazásainak az utolsó fázisa.
Those 6 years from age 24 to 30, now Caitanya Mahaprabhu is 30 years old, have come to an end.
A Úr Caitanya 24 éves korától 30 éves koráig tartó időszak most a végére ér.
And now this last 18 years, he's just living in Puri.
Az utolsó 18 évben Puriban
And
lakott,
he's chanting Hare Krishna and enjoying the ecstasies of devotional service.
és énekli a Hare Krishnát, és élvezi az odaadó szolgálat extázisát.
So we'll stop here.
Itt megállunk,
We'll continue next week,
jövő héten folytatjuk,
which will include Lord Chaitanya meeting Rupa Goswami,
és itt szó lesz arról, hogy az Úr Caitanya találkozik Rupa Goswamival,
Sanatana Goswami,
Sanatana Goswamival,
and then back again to Puri.
és aztán visszamegy Puriba.
What we continue with, I don't know, I'll think about that.
Hogy aztán mivel folytatjuk, azon majd gondolkodom.
Let's see, it's nice speaking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Lássuk, jó beszélni Caitanya Mahaprabhuról.
So Hare Krishna everybody, thank you all very much.
Hare Krishna mindenkinek, hálás köszönet.
And we'll leave you all by chanting Krishna Krishna.
És a Krishna Krishna éneklésével
And
köszönünk
then
el.
afterwards, I'll talk to Okan, and then I will go swimming in the Jamuna.
Aztán beszélek Okannal, aztán megyek úszni a Yamunába.
Krishna 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 Hare. Krishna 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 Krishna, 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 Rakshama. Rama, 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 Rakshama, Pahima. Jai Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol, Hari Krishna. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.